A very pleasant good day to all of our viewers and those who are joining via Second Advent Radio. We welcome you to another edition of Marriage Encounter. We are delighted to be with you on the airways and on our various social media platforms. It is indeed a pleasure to have you today. And we trust by the grace of God that as we continue this important discussion that we started last week on the matter of denial of imperfection in the marriage relationship. We trust that you will receive meaningful insights that will help to grow your relationship. We are happy to have Pastor Adams with us again. And Pastor Adams, we want to welcome you to Marriage Encounter. We're going to ask you to unmute and lead us in prayer after your greetings.
So good day again to our viewers, Dr. Greene. It is always a pleasure for us to be on this very important program where we are sharing. It is all for the improvement of marriages, families, and our relationships. Those who are preparing for marriage can benefit greatly because they will be able to hear these things even before they actually get into the experience, which can help them so that they will be able to be in a better place with the skills that are needed. So welcome one and all, and we begin. So let us pray. Father, we just thank you again that we can be here today for another installment of this very important program. Guide our mind, our thoughts, our discussion, may be able to share again some valuable insights and techniques with our viewing, listening audience. We pray in Jesus' name.
Amen. Well, last week, Pastor, we began, well, not really began, we ended, in fact, talking about the matter of denial of imperfection as one reasons why some individuals resist boundaries. They tend to become invested in not being wrong. They like to see themselves as the good guy. And we often say in a relationship, if you have to look good at the expense of your spouse, then the overall outcome of that is bad for the relationship because you're supposed to be on the same team. You're not competing with one another. And it's really important to understand that and to make that a principle in your life. You know, you're on the same team. So some individuals are really, really challenged because they never want to consider the possibility that they could be wrong, that they could do something wrong. They deny that they crossed a boundary. They will, a spouse may say, you're raising your voice at me. And the person may respond by saying, me, I'm such a calm and cool person. I never raise my voice. See how politely I'm responding. This is how I am all the time. And so, you have individuals who just deny the reality and always make an excuse for something that is pointed out at them.
Yeah, when I was growing up as a little boy in my village, you'll say you're wrong and strong. You're wrong and strong at the same time. If the imperfections come to the point where it is obvious, and like I would normally tell people, it's obvious that you're wrong like two left side shoes, but you're still trying to project that you are perfect. That is not abnormal. That is not normal. That's something there has to be some abnormality going on there. But we're saying that if the person is of that, and usually people with the personality disorder will have that kind of approach. Usually narcissistic people act and function in those kind of ways. So I'm saying that the complexity of these things come to the point where somebody might be having a personality disorder issue. But if you are normal, and you don't have those kind of issues, then what does it take for you to, we say, humble yourself? Because we normally spoke about humility some couple brought casts ago. What it is, how much will that take from you to just humble yourself and to accept this imperfection, to accept this wrong, and it's okay at all levels, at all levels. It is just a mark of a mature personality and a rounded personality that you don't have any personality defect. To admit to your imperfections, and people will value you more than like a normal human being. I have had to tell in my leadership role, I've had to tell my boards, our committees, people that I lead, that I am not a perfect man. I am subject to error. I may not, this point of view or this opinion, this decision might not be the right thing. And when you recognize that and you come back and you tell them, well, look, yeah, I was wrong. This decision was not the right one. This should have been as opposed to people value you more as a human being. People accept you more. It opened the room for acceptance because you're behaving as a normal human being, you see. So that is abnormal behavior, to know that this thing is glaring that we are wrong, but still insist that you are right, and it gives that person who you're in that relationship difficulties, because I have to be walking around you like on eggshells because you're this perfect person and I am the one that is wrong. So I'm afraid that if I do something or say something, I will be ostracized, condemned, criticized, because I'm dealing with a person who has absolute perfection. This person is not capable of doing or saying anything wrong. That is not a relationship. That is not a healthy relationship.
Last week, Pastor, we discussed the matter of control, and this denial of imperfection can also lead to control. If I'm never wrong, if I am never wrong, then there is no reason for my spouse not to heed my counsel, to follow my guidelines and my suggestions, because after all, I'm never wrong.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, so then one leads to the other, and that's my point. And when you have a child who blames the world for their wrong actions, they don't study and they fail the exam, but the fact that instead of accepting the fact that they are um, in a situation where they're reaping the consequences of their action. They say, oh, the teacher doesn't like me, the teacher favors this person. And they make excuse, even when it is very obvious that it is their fault. That person needs help. That person really does need help. And I think it's a similar thing in a marriage where one spouse thinks that they have no imperfections.
And that is so correct. That is so correct. Um, so I am not seeing the person as my equal, because I'm the perfect one and you are the imperfect one. And therefore, yes, extending from what we said last week, that could lead to controlling behavior. Whether I'm wrong or right, if I tell you jump, your response is to be how high, whether it is wrong or right. So yes, all of these things are interrelated as we are discussing it, and that is why we just have to subject ourselves to this, our own self-evaluation, our own personal scrutiny. Am I really being the valuable person or spouse in this experience, in this relationship? you know So if you are a perfect person, then you wouldn't want to do those kind of a self-evaluation. You wouldn't want to put yourself up to those kind of a scrutiny because I am already a perfect person. There's nothing for me to evaluate. There's nothing for us to evaluate, you know. So yes. So we can see how problematic this can be when one person takes that position.
Definitely, definitely. Really very problematic. And what we're about doing here, as we bring these things to the fore, as we highlight these issues, we're seeking to help spouses. An individual may be on one side of the table and may be thinking, why am I having all these problems with my spouse? My spouse is just thinking that he or she's perfect. Or you may have a situation where we hope that the information we share will be able to say to that spouse who has this problem of accepting imperfection, hey, maybe that's me. Maybe I need to stop and revisit and look at myself and see, how, because if your spouse is saying over and over again, I'm challenging this regard. It's time you listen. It's time you stop and you listen. And we have said on so many occasions, Pastor Adams, we need to listen to our spouses. We need to listen, not just hear, but listen to our spouses. In a moment of quietude, we need to reflect, what has my spouse been saying to me that I am not really getting? Why is this happening? That self-reflection is very important for your growth and your development.
Mhm. Yes. So now that we have done looking at this matter of how people behave when they think that they are perfect, and so um, how about the whole aspect of retaliatory behaviors?
Well,
Do
you're right.
those things happen in real life married situations where people just seek to get even? We lift it for tat and claim to be married, husband and wives, you know?
You are raising a very important thing, I mean, issue there, Pastor Adams. Um, I want to begin by saying, because you ask about revenge. Revenge is never a good option in your relationship. The Bible text that comes to my mind is God saying, vengeance belongs to him. He will repay. But when we try to get even with somebody else, we are not helping the relationship. We are damaging the relationship. And I want to make a distinction between getting even and consequences. We just spoke about this matter of denial of imperfection. When a child um, refuses to accept his or her limitations, then he or she will have to suffer the consequences. And ultimately, we hope, learn from their bad behavior. And in a relationship, there is consequential action as well. That is quite different from an individual who, because they perceive that their spouse is doing something. That's another story, and we probably need to talk about the perception, because a lot of
Mhm.
times people take action on assumptions that may not even
Mhm.
be correct. And so they may
Right.
perceive that their spouse is doing something that may hurt them, and they retaliate and try to get back even. So we have situations where somebody suspects that his or her spouse is having an affair, and they retaliate by going and having an affair likewise. That never helps.
Mhm.
That's pretty dangerous. Now that may be a, a very harsh or example that I've just used there, in terms of an affair. But I think it serves to illustrate the point. It may not be an affair, it may not be as big as an affair. It may be that this person perceives that the reason my spouse didn't cook is because my spouse is upset with me and they're punishing me for what they thought I did last night. So let me get back by not fulfilling my responsibility. And you have this back and forth that can spiral so quickly downhill that it's activation energy for a stone on top of a hill. And as it rolls down, it picks up momentum and goes fast and fast, and eventually the marriage falls apart.
Well, the example that you give is not a far-fetched one because I've actually heard that. You did this to me, I am going to do this to you, and I am going to do it with to a point that could pain you even more. I've heard that, but there are some other things. Yeah, the example. What about withholding money? The man is in this thing because you did so and so and so, and this I am withholding money, or the woman can use the spouse in this situation. I am withholding myself. I am withholding my no sexual contact with you, you know, because is the retaliatory behavior, you know. So yes, we have all of these things that are real things that happen in marriages as a form of retaliation of getting even, you see, right? So, but yes, again, but I was thinking from what we were discussing last week, this same person who we talked about not admitting and to the imperfection and all of that, is that person more likely to be one that is going to be quick to move to retaliatory behavior if he or she doesn't get his or her own way? I am thinking that that person who who behaves as a perfectionist might be the one that be able to say, you know, I'm going to get even with you, you know, for whatever. And sometimes some very simple things. But we're saying that in relationships, one cannot come living a tit for tat. You kill my dog, I kill your cat, as one of my colleagues in family life used to say. You know, that can't be the position. Or how would this relationship be? Where's the room for forgiveness? Where's the room for reconciliation? You know, see, even if my spouse does something that hurts me, and so why should I use that? Why should I take that position? You know, instead of coming to retaliating, I have to. Cause how long I'm
Pastor,
gonna
you
go?
you got muted there. I'm not sure what happened, but I heard you saying even if your spouse hurts you, why should you take that position?
Yeah, why should you take that position? You know, because if every time your spouse hurts you, you're going to take that retaliating position, how would that relationship be with where just somebody just waiting to see as soon as you slip or miss? You know, I am willing to, you know, no, we must bring love to bear on every situation. And as you rightly said, sometimes it could be a perception, and sometimes it was not our spouse in original intent to make this to hurt us or to make us feel however. The person might not even be intentional. Because remember, some time ago we were discussing that sometimes somebody might not even be aware, you see. So give the person the benefit of the doubt than to take up stance where you're gonna quick to we must be slow because you know, love is patient, love is kind. You know, when we read the treatise on love, I believe that if the treatise of love, if we should put those principles to work, then nobody would want to act in the way that we have described in our last two presentations. Nobody would want to act as though they are perfectionists. Nobody would want to take the position where they have to retaliate, right? Because love is kind. It doesn't flaunt itself, right? It seeks no revenge. If you read what Paul says in Corinthians, you see. So if that is the case, I can't conclude that that's a loving relationship. And the basis for which marriage and relationship is built must be that foundation of love. The principle of love has to be operational.
In fact, Pastor, I dare say, Brian Craig spoke about Brian Craig is a one of my go-to family life educators. Very thorough in his treatment of certain things,
Yes, yes.
and he deals with this matter of signs of a marriage in distress. I'm kind of putting that in my own words, uh,
Mhm.
indicators that your marriage is headed in the wrong direction, and the matter of the acting on presumption. You assume, and so that it becomes a pattern, you become judgmental, and your judgments, your conclusions do not have any proper basis. You have not
Mhm.
verified, but you, because the relationship is unstable, you come to conclusions, you begin to misinterpret the so it's really about misinterpretation, but you
Mhm.
are acting on those misinterpretations and coming to your own conclusions. But we are adding to this now the matter of retaliatory action, which is what makes it
Mhm.
even more dangerous, because when I assume, correctly or incorrectly, that my spouse is intentional in doing something. Your spouse makes a joke and you take it as a pretty serious thing, as an attack against your character. Um, and you withdraw, or you decide, well, they did it to me in secret. Let me try to do it to them in public. That's retaliation. You're trying to see if you can outdo the other. But it's a combination of other things, because it is also escalating, not escalating from the point of raising your decibel level, but escalating from the time of your reaction. And so one person does something, the other person goes up around on the ladder to see, okay, you hurt me a little, I'm going to hurt you a little more. And the other person may eventually decide, let me respond by hurting you some more than how you hurt me. Which you see the direction that the marriage is going in there.
Yes, yes,
Not very
definitely.
good at all.
So
Mm.
what we should be doing is see how we can de-escalate. Because if you tell me something that is hurtful, intentionally or otherwise, I'm going to tell you something that is five more times more hurtful. And we can keep on going that way. But that is not how intimacy functions in a relationship, right?
And I
Um,
think we need to realize, that, you know, again, last week we made a point that we are not perfect. We spoke about imperfection. But even outside of that, love is not expressed the same way by everybody. And so you must expect some degree of difference, some degree of vulnerability. In fact, if I am going to be genuine, I have to be vulnerable. I have to exercise a certain degree of risk, may I say. Real genuineness, real love requires some degree of vulnerability. We have to have that mindset about each other, and to understand that we may not come across acceptably to each other on occasions, but that's not the end of the road. And in fact, you discover that sometimes, I heard a gentleman share a story once that his wife, he went someplace, and in fact, his wife sent him on an errand because she wanted to surprise him. And while he was gone, she got candles and she led candles from the doorway to the bedroom, and they were lit and scented candles and that kind of thing. And when he came back from the errand, he saw the candles, the wife meaning for it to be a romantic kind of thing. He jumped up, you want to work hobby on me or what? You know, I mean, judgment, Very wrong conclusion, very inappropriate action. Of course, that spoiled the night. So we have to give the benefit of the doubt. We have to recognize and understand that, there is, as I said before, some degree of vulnerability, and we take chances and we do things differently. Let's be open and accepting of one another.
Yes. And when we look at the model, you know, because remember I said last week, particularly if we talk about the ideal Christian marriages, even when we were wrong, Christ did not, okay, I'm going to get even with this creation that expressed, that transgressed and did all that. He brought love to bear. He brought love to bear on that situation. So whatever issue it is, instead of taking a retaliatory stance, why not let us go the other way and bring love to bear on the situation, love to bear on the issue? I think that
Correct.
that might be a better thing, right? And once the person there is it's a normal person, they will come around to realize, well, after all, I anticipated or expected this kind of response, but my spouse really, surprised me and took that position, walked the higher road, and brought love to bear, you know. So, so, um, so we can't be tit for tat. Somebody
Right.
ought to act in a very, mature way to know that no, we can't escalate this situation. And the best I can do is bring love to bear in this situation and leave it there and see what response is gonna get, or how my spouse is gonna respond when I treated this situation this kind of a way.
Yes, Pastor. That's where we're going to have to wrap up for today. Our time has expired. Um, we will, however, continue the discussion. Next week, we're going to address another issue as we try to bring conclusion to this matter of how we can assess ourselves meaningfully so that we can better respond to boundaries. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to write to us. Our email address is marriageencounter@slcadventist.org. That is marriageencounter@slcadventist.org. That's all the time we have for today. But remember, we will be back next week with another episode of Marriage Encounter. God bless you. Until then.